watching the monkey.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode of The Art of Being with the ACT Matrix. I'm your host, Kevin. I'm, at least on my screen, I'm in the upper right. Yeah. And there is the other host.
And I'm Phil Tenaya. I'm over here.
Right, and then our guest is here, and I'll let Phil take care of that, and he'll carry this podcast. This is his bailiwick.
All right. So I am very pleased to have on the podcast tonight, Kevin, my friend and colleague, Dawn White. And Dawn White is now vice principal at a local high school that she and I were working in, and I have since retired, and she has not retired, so she's still fighting the good fight in there. And Dawn is one of the first people, we were just talking about this before we turned it on, folks, who I introduced the Matrix to when Kevin first brought the Matrix into the world.
Yeah. So I'll cut in there. So that makes her like in the first 10 or 20 people to ever use the Matrix.
Right.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So
2009.
2009, right. So we were working together, and we were working in the alternative program, and she was the supervisor. And I showed it to her, and then I'm going to let Dawn take over. What she did with it, because everybody. The great thing about the art of being, and Kevin and I have been talking about this, is that we really get a great bird's eye view to be able to sit back and listen to what people have done with it, because we just show it to people, and then it's up to people like Dawn to decide what they want to do with it. So Dawn, take it away.
So first of all, thank you for having me. And let me go on to explain a little bit about the Matrix, because in my experience, most of my experience has been with students who have serious emotional issues or acting out behavior problems. So while Mr. Tenaya was very good at throwing the Matrix up on a board in his office, I would become a little more creative and animated. The teacher part of me would. And I have, so much as I continue to use the Matrix, just as recent as yesterday in my office, I can adapt it very quickly to whatever's around me. So I have done very often taken sticky notes, and I will just tell a student to tell me what they're moving toward, what's important to you. And then I'll jump up and start slapping on the board or on my wall or in my office exactly what's important to them and what they should be moving toward. And then when we start talking about away moves, I move that to the opposite side of the room so they can see exactly where they're going. There's a clear delineation of whether it's toward or away. Then I have them stand in the center, and they talk about what they start to notice. And as they start to notice things, they realize it's either clearly toward or clearly away. Yeah. And the most important thing I think that students react to is the fact that it's very non-judgmental from the person who's kind of get you to notice what's going on. So if they choose something that's inappropriate in the school context, that's not for me to judge. That could be on their toward side or their away side. But again, we come back to what exactly are they looking for? Right. I think when Phil first introduced the Matrix, it was an abstract idea that we all had to wrap our minds around and kind of own in the position we had. Him being a school psychologist, I think it was easier for him to call himself into a conversation where a student had the opportunity to put the Matrix on, and they had an opportunity to sort those ideas in front of them. As a person who dealt with discipline, often I'm handing out the discipline and I'm realizing, all right, now you've got yourself in this much trouble. This is where we are, but let's start to notice what happened before or how you can recover, which is so important in the Matrix. Yep. All right, you are where you are. Notice where you are. Yep. Notice all those feelings. Notice what you did. Now, what are you going to do? How are you going to get back on that toward side, wherever that may take you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'll use a psychological term, you're physicalizing this.
Yes, very much so. Because I think that the kids that I deal with, they deal more with the physical. They want to see exactly what does that mean. And when the stickies start to stack up on one side, then it's almost like a sense of accomplishment. Because now they're seeing, all right, I have all of this I'm working toward. This is how I'm getting there. And I think when you start to put the word notice in the center of it, then they can actually physically understand.
Where do you put that?
What's that?
The word notice, since they're in the middle and over here on the one side is toward and over here on the other side's away, where do you put the notice?
We usually put it with the them in the middle, the me.
Okay. Yeah.
Like a sticky note on their forehead.
Exactly. They can wear it. I usually tell them to wear it on their belly. That's when you feel it.
Yeah.
They know it. Most of the time, it's just drawing them to the point that they know exactly what they're choosing to do. They just have to notice what happened before. We see a lot of behaviors that they do that they want to escape or avoid. A lot of avoiding behaviors.
Sure.
So they say, I'm just sleeping. They don't really recognize, well, why are you sleeping? Like, what are you trying to get away from? And that's what you want to draw them to notice. Right. That notice is such an important part of the matrix.
Yeah.
I've done it where I've actually had kids in a room, as we do it as a small group, realize that this is the center line. It's almost like playing, Phil, what's that? Red Rover, Red Rover.
Oh, yeah, come on over, right? Yeah.
You know, like which side do you want to come on over?
Yeah, really. Yeah, which way you want it, which side you want to be on. Yep.
And a lot of kids notice that they're dancing in the middle. I'm dancing in the middle. What should I do next? So, you know, look at, you got the toward on your shoulder and you have the away on your shoulder. Which one are you going to listen to?
Which way are you going to lean?
Which way are you going to lean? And all we can do is put it up there. And as I said, I do it a little bit differently than Phil. I don't have a huge whiteboard and I don't always have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think because it's innately built in me now as a response to life, but more importantly in my job situation, that I can adapt at any point in time and just throw toward and away out there.
Yeah.
Oh, and to anyone listening to this podcast, my goodness, Phil and I love to hear this stuff like this. And it does not have to be done on a whiteboard.
No, absolutely not.
A part of the whiteboard or the representations we do on the internet is because that's easy to show people, right? So to have a wall on this side and a wall on this side and noticing in the middle, that's not so easy to show. But my God, is that a powerful way to do this exercise?
Yes, right.
And it's way cool. And we will make sure to put that into our next training.
Oh, yeah.
To tell people. I know people do that, but they haven't explained it as well as you do, Dawn. That's just really cool.
Wow.
And especially
that many years of trying to influence these troubled youths as they are. So
I know where you work, Dawn, because Phil has told me where you work. But now, without revealing too much, but tell us the setting that you're in. You're not talking about the burbs and the worried well. And that kind of folks, are you? What kind of high school are you in?
Well, I can tell you I've had a lot of experiences. The experience that brought me to the matrix up front and was in my face all the time was my experience as 10 years as a supervisor and as an alternative program for kids who were classified with behavioral problems.
Exactly.
Yes.
So these are the kids who have been classified as behavioral problems and sent to a high school for that reason. A special place.
Right. Persona non grata, we call them.
Exactly. They're otherwise known as they've been cast out of the other system.
That's right.
But you know what? I will say this, that those years, while they were tough at times, and I have some situations that I don't think people would ever believe were true, being the only administrator in that setting, with very limited resources and a lot of upset kids for many different reasons, is a struggle. But I think what we learned was that it was an opportunity. And when we started turning things around and flipping it so kids understood the opportunity they had in front of them, that's when the reward came in. And I will tell you, 30 years in my craft and in my position with one particular school district, that I find more and more students from that program are adults now who come back and they still remember. They didn't remember what we taught them.
No.
They may not have remembered the management program, but they remembered the fact that we always presented them with opportunities to be successful.
Yeah, that was our word. Opportunity was the word, right?
It was the word. Once we flipped it to becoming an opportunity, then it was tremendous. Yeah. And I sell it. I so much as had a kid go for an intake at this same program yesterday. Now I'm in a different setting because now I'm at a comprehensive high school where when we can't meet their needs there, I'm now recommending people to the program.
Right.
And I still present it as I was presenting it to this parent it's an opportunity. We're going to give your son another opportunity to go over there. And who better to sell it than someone who spent 10 years there? I mean, it's a phenomenal opportunity. But I often find, and Phil will agree with me on this, that being an administrator in education, the matrix is not lost on teachers, adults, parents.
Oh, there you go. Right.
It's not just the student. It's not just for students. And sometimes you have to sit back and matrix yourself for a few minutes because you have to come up with what's the shared purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we all doing this together?
Yeah.
Because
Dawn and I did a session where we matrixed ourselves. We would get together and just kind of sort things out, right?
Or I would walk into his office, shut the door, and say, "Let's go. I'm on the away side, and I don't know where I'm going toward anymore. I'm spinning." That's what he would call it, spinning.
Yeah.
Spinning, right. Wow.
We did a lot of spinning.
Wow. And then get back. And he brought in a term that comes, shared purpose, that comes from pro-social work or whatever. When you switch the question from, hey, who's important to you, to, hey, you folks, what's your shared purpose? What are you working on together?
Which is very easily lost, unfortunately. It's lost on the Board of Ed. Sometimes it's lost. It's just lost in the daily things, tasks you have to get done in a school. You think about, all right, you think of all the problems and you never think about, all right, what's our big purpose here? Like, what are we all working toward?
Yep.
And it's very good to ground yourself with that one question.
It is. You're speaking our language for sure. That's what we tell people. Well, as a matter of fact, when we do pro-social work presentations, whatever you want to call them, we both know, Phil and I and others know, that the main thing you're working on is getting people to check in on shared purpose repeatedly, like every day, because if you don't, it drifts away from you.
I've been trained very well.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that, what, as you said, opportunity. And then, and Dawn, you could jump in on this, but, for us, it was like, we want to get you where you want to go when you're here. This is about what your opportunity is. And the
student's opportunity.
Yeah. Right. So now the purpose is not just the shared purpose of the staff, but, I think the real key, and Dawn's really good at this, is there's a shared purpose for all of us here. We're all showing up here for a reason.
Well, and so I'm with the student. Where do you want to go? And I'll do everything I can to work in that direction.
We're going to walk alongside you.
I'll come alongside you. Yeah. Right.
And that's not very easy for a lot of people in education to understand. They think we should all promote higher education after high school, getting to college. So for a lot of kids, that's not what they're moving toward. That's not what's important to them. And when they can communicate to us what it is important to them, we will do everything we can to make sure they get to be successful.
Exactly. So let's do that. Exactly. Instead of, well, never mind that, here's some more college brochures.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No. Where do you want to go? Great.
Sometimes a full-time job at the McDonald's. Sometimes I've studied for CDL licenses.
Oh, right.
Getting it a CDL.
Yeah. Dawn's done a lot of tutoring over the years too.
I have.
That's
things I never thought I'd have to know.
I'd walk in there many a day, and then she'd be helping somebody with getting ready to take some kind of a test. Would be in her office.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
And the saying that's been said about this work, often you meet people exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Oh, very true. Every day, every single day. It goes with adults and as with students as well.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think the hard part of working with challenging students so often is that they get lost. They don't know who they are, where they're going. They just get so inundated with, and sadly, electricity, food, the struggles of their home life, mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a lot of baggage they come in with.
A lot of stuff. Oh yeah. And that's what my point was in that. And I know all teenagers have it rough on some level. It's just the way it is. But you folks, they're coming from troubled households and neighborhoods, and they bring all of that to school. It's part of their internal context, their internal life that they're bringing in, and to get through all of that, and and then to get them to clearly answer, well, who's important to you, and what would you like to do with your life? at least for now.
Yeah.
And remember, that can always change. I mean, you're only whatever age they are. It changes. Believe me, it changes. But let's do something now.
Yeah.
But I keep coming back to that visual image of a kid standing in the middle of your office with sticky notes on either side of them, with a noticing badge on their belly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm not necessarily, when I'm doing the matrix and I'm doing it physically, I'm not as calm as you see me right now. I'm usually in the center saying to them, what are you noticing? What are you feeling? Or I often have suspended a kid and I'll be like, well, if you wanted to get back to your homeschool, I'll put the sticky all the way to their right and be like, you are so far away from that right now. So let's think about it. Let's regroup. And what do you have to do? And that's what they get. They get the energy along with the message saying, you know, like, you got to notice right now. Look at my face. You know, my facial expressions can tell you.
5 cents experience. There you go. Right.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Right. So we're not talking your mindful meditation retreat.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Dawn is doing on this call, Kevin, is what she does all day long. She's doing this all day long.
Well, and Phil was my witness. I said I love the Matrix done live in heated situations.
And you know what? I feel like I give it the best when it's impromptu. If I plan to do it with a student, it never goes well. But when I'm in the heat of a moment with a kid, I'll be like, whoa, let's back up. Exactly what are you thinking in this moment? What is the purpose of this? Then you just start throwing things up on the wall or
that's definitely the best. It's improv. Improvisation is what you just said, and it is improv. It's the definition of improv, and it's best if you do it that way. Just throw it up, go for it, get animated, get people having fun. And then Phil and I oftentimes discuss when we're doing a presentation with 10, 20, 30, 40 people, whatever it is, and there'll come this point when you're playing around with the diagram, and it's 10, 15, 20 minutes in, and you'll suddenly see the audience light up and they're suddenly playing with it in real time. Like, oh, wow, cool. Mm-hmm. And boom, boom, boom. And then things start happening somewhat like what you're talking about. People become animated. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want. It's not, well, I guess it's mindful if you're thinking about the Matrix right before you're going to go to bed or something. But other than that, no, it's a lively, entertaining.
I generally don't name it until I'm done.
Oh, and there's another thing that.
But then I tell them how smart they are because now they just learned the matrix of psychological flexibility.
Exactly.
Like, I did what?
Oh man, you are such an expert at this, Dawn. It's so great. Okay, let's back up. Why am Kevin saying that? Because the general rule is you go through something that's people, if you said the name of it first, they would think it's difficult. Yeah. But instead, you just take them through the process and they go, oh, wow, this is cool. This is great. And then at the end of it, you go, you know what you just did? You just did something called psychological flexibility. And they go, really? Wow, cool. So you showed them that it's easy to do, and then you gave them the complicated name for it. If you turn that around and say, I'm going to teach you psychological flexibility, they check out on you. They don't want to learn something like that. And all of that.
One of my favorite experiences was when I remember being with Phil when we both learned that a kindergartner at one of our elementary schools was doing it on the playground. In sidewalk chalk.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. I remember that. Right.
When Bianca sent me the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. That was so cool.
Yeah, folks, it's obviously not a photograph that's been shared, but Bill showed it to me once. And it's so cool that, a kid with troubles has gotten sidewalk chalk and is doing a matrix in the playground.
During recess. During recess,
right.
On his own.
And there's all kinds of anecdotes about that. But your situation, Dawn, is just so wild.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, come on, everybody, think for a moment. You've been sent to the principal's office. Mm-hmm. That's where you're in.
That's not usually for good news.
Which is like,
yeah, they're not going there because
they're not going to hand you an award or something.
No, you're not student of the month.
you're in trouble.
Yep.
And in walks, and suddenly somebody's up and going with you, and they got toward on one side and away on one side and noticing in the middle, and they're not judging you.
No.
It's like, well, this is where you got yourself into. I can't change that.
Right.
You know, that's the fact of the matter. But from this moment forward, you can work your way out of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a look at it and go from there. And that's a whole horse of a different color than what you're usually getting when you go to the principal's office.
And you're mentioning principal, Kevin, and Dawn hasn't said this yet, but you know what that sets up, and what I saw from my perspective watching her as administrator is that those kids kept showing back up in her office again, as opposed to looking at the principal's office as an away. It was a tour.
Instead of something to be avoided, they were something to go move.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, and which was absolutely never my experience. I didn't have any of those bad things, but I gave that place a wide berth.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that I think with my own personal philosophy, which was that a kid needs to learn in every instance you have an encounter with them. So when I learned the matrix and when I actually was able to internalize it and then apply it to the situation, discipline was the perfect place for it to soak its way in. Because if a kid's in my office, I have their undivided attention.
You got them.
Oh, yeah, but exactly. Yep.
They're there.
And so before we even get to the consequence, we talk about what happened, what they might have been able to do differently. And then oftentimes I like to have them role play. All right, if you were me, what would you think you should deserve?
So tell them what you do, Dawn. Tell them what you do with your keys.
I would actually, many times, as I said, a lot of kids need to have the experience. I would get out of my chair, have them sit in my principal's chair, put my keys on for everything, and tell, all right, now I'm you. I'm making those same choices you just made. What do you think is a fair consequence for that? And I said, there's not a lot of magic in this. The code of conduct's written before I was born.
Right.
You know what's going to happen. It's really just a matter of, okay, let's come up. And oftentimes, if they actually participated in that process and I could see they were understanding what they did, the consequence was a lot less. If being punitive worked, we would be out of a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
One trial learning, they're all
these kids would have straightened up a long time ago.
So it's clear the data proves it just doesn't work. So then you have to make something different out of that. As you responded, Kevin, with the old school idea of going to the principal's office and getting in trouble. Well, if I don't make that a learning experience, where's that kid going to go from here? Who's going to fix them when they become an adult?
More away moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is just fabulous what both of you did when Phil was there, and now what Dawn does is to change that into an opportunity, as you say.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to a word. I'll say, it's in the noticing. There's a routine we do, noticing hooks. It's for homework. You may have heard of it, Dawn, and so you have somebody identify their favorite hooks, whether it's getting behind a slow driver or, that kind of stuff. I don't know what it would be for kids, but something.
Showing up in so-and-so's class.
Right, showing whatever.
We used hooks often in school.
Yeah.
The kid just hooked you. They just reeled you in, baited you, reeled you in, and you let them.
And you let them, right. And so I'll say, so when do you think you'll have the opportunity to notice your next hook? And I always use that word opportunity. So when's going to be the next opportunity? And it's purposely to put it as an opportunity. You're going to get hooked. If you're human, you're going to get hooked. I mean, come on, we're all getting hooked. But it's a whole different kettle of fish if you notice that you're hooked. That's the opportunity, which, by the way, is your thing, Dawn. You notice when you get hooked, and you instead come back with oh, wow, I'm noticing a hook. How does that fit in where you need to go?
Right.
I'm going to give you an example, and Phil may not have had this opportunity in his career, so I'm going to share it with him.
All right.
I have also used the matrix to help students that our AP high school students decide when they get themselves overwhelmed with which college, whether it should be Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, and we sit and we put themselves, well, what are you noticing about this? What are you noticing about that? What choices can you make to make sure that you get into this school? So that's, until I moved positions, I had never even met a student who had the capability to attend an Ivy League school. And now I find the matrix is as powerful with them as it is with the student with, that's having difficulty just behaving for the day.
There you go. Exactly. And that's what my point is. It's difficult for all of them.
Yeah.
No matter where you are on the spectrum, you're starting your life off, your adult life off. That's scary.
Yeah.
And it's hard, even if you're having to decide between Stanford and Harvard and Yale or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, you can put all that up. Do you do it on the walls?
Sometimes then it's also most then that can be internal. Like we can just talk about it.
Just talk it through, right?
Because they have a lot more ability.
Yeah, you don't always have to put it up.
Yeah.
But you got to admit, the wall stick could work there too.
Oh, it definitely could work. The visual could work.
Yeah, that could definitely work.
But they do grab onto the language. So it's a universal language. And being a special ed teacher with a specialty in students with behavioral challenges, I have to tell you, the first time I had a matrix on a student in that situation with an Ivy League school, I have to tell you, I had to shut my door afterward and be like, wow, that was so cool. Not the experience I had in the program prior.
Yeah.
Not that one's better than the other, but it's just, again, a different way of applying what I know.
It's definitely a different way of applying. Well, that's...
Yeah, and just like you said, Dawn, everybody gets stuck. I mean, whether
we all get stuck.
Harvard or you're heading to a job, you're, stuck is stuck.
What was that title of a book we came up with yesterday, Phil?
Oh, yeah. Everybody sucks, I think.
Everybody sucks. It's okay to suck.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay to suck. Right. That was the title we're coming up with the book. You just take your suck with you.
The other one was it's okay to suck and be stuck.
Yeah.
That would work too.
We were iterating it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we all get stuck.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We all do. And that's, of course, that's a big part of doing it. And Dawn, you obviously are an expert practitioner of that, is like, okay, I'm really no different than you at all. So let me see if I can help you walk through this and take a look at this. And I have a way of doing that. Well, more than one way, but that's cool. And so you don't have
a lot of student sandboxes, right, Phil?
Oh, yeah. You would even take them out to I think there was one student I recall.
I did.
Would take them out to she would actually go outside. We had it was a garden at one point that had become very overgrown. It was some kind of a project gone bad.
Yeah, and, I've seen those. Right.
And it was kind of like literally a big sandbox. I remember Dawn took more than one person out there into the sandbox. Physically.
Physical to show them what it meant to be. We would talk about
quicksand.
So it used to be a playground with sand underneath it.
Oh, sure.
I would take them out to the middle of the box to stand in the sand to understand, all right, if you're getting quicksand, you're getting sucked up right now. I'm over here. I keep throwing you life rafts and you keep struggling. And what happens to people who struggle in a sandbox? You go down faster. So stop struggling and let us help you. We're throwing you ways to get out of the sandbox. And again, because of being the five senses, sometimes being in the middle of a sandbox helps.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I could still picture that one student just looking at you like, whoa.
I know. She's lost her mind. What is she doing out here?
I think it helps when you're working with people and they think you've lost your mind.
Oh, always. Never let them predict you, ever.
Exactly.
They don't know what she's going to do next, Kevin.
And I liked it. I had a school bus of students to one particular area, and they always got written up. And I said, don't think I won't ride that bus. And then a couple of times, I got on the bus and rode the bus.
Oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. So, folks listening to the podcast, this is the way, what I call it, Phil, doing the matrix on the streets.
This is taking it to the street.
Taking it to the streets.
Dawn does every day.
So, Dawn, this is not new to me. Well, we have, you on the podcast just a few weeks ago, we had a man named Paul Rock,
yeah,
who does it with heroin or ex-heroin addicts that are just one more use away from
not being around anymore, right?
From dying, really. I mean, right on the streets. So that's I love this stuff of where you're working with it and doing it this way. And you said something that Paul said. It's the noticing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That powerful word, noticing, and noticing what you're up to. And
well, it's very easy for us to notice as educators what they're doing, but we don't make a change in them until they start to notice.
Until they start to
you can't make someone move their finger, right, Phil?
Yeah. Can't push their finger.
Can't push their finger. So once they notice it, then they have the power to change.
And then, right. And so, yeah, they do. And they can, and your thing is, well, now that you notice it, you can choose to keep doing what you're doing or choose to do something different, you know. Up to you.
I remember giving a couple students at the, when I was with Phil, tally sheets. Just, I don't even want to know what you're noticing. You just write a tally every time you notice.
Yeah, right.
If you notice anything, just tell me your tally. So then we would come back and I would almost have to teach them the expectation, what it means to notice. Because if you say that to a kid, it can mean so many different things.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. It's like a light bulb moment, right?
Yeah. So once they start to notice, then you teach them, all right, what to do with that. That's when you get that feeling in your belly. You know, like you're going to do something. You know in your belly you're going to do it. Now you're noticing. Now what do you do next?
There you go. That's why the noticing on the belly.
You got it.
Your gut feeling.
Right in the gut.
Right in the gut.
We can't deny our gut.
Nope.
Guts don't lie.
That's right. So that's the title of your next book, Guts Don't Lie.
Okay. We have entirely too many book titles we got going.
We're coming up with tons of them.
But I don't know if Don knows, but Phil is coming up with the ultimate matrix thing, which is a trifold.
Yes.
So,
in spring, Dawn, there's going to be a laminated.
That folds into three that has the entire matrix instructions on one trifold.
Wow.
Yeah, wow was right, because that, in my opinion, that's what we've needed. I mean, there's 2 matrix books out there, but whoever reads all that? But almost everybody will take a look at a trifold. Especially if it's laminated,
or at least use it as like a dinner plate or something.
Right. Use it to scrape, as a dustbin or something.
Carry stuff around with it.
Well, gentlemen, I will tell you, this is good stuff. It's good stuff. It was good stuff when I learned it in 2009, and it's still applicable up until today.
Oh yeah.
Once Phil gets some of those trifolds, he'll have to get one your way. So you can
absolutely. Yeah.
Take a look at it and say you'll get a big hoot out. No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking more forward to it more than I was the books. How many words are going to be in that trifold, Phil?
Under 3,500. I have.
Way under 3,500. That's my kind of book.
Yeah, right.
Dawn,
lots of pictures.
Dawn, you're getting in on the old conversation. I'm a simplifier. And so my shtick is less words, just less words, do things with less words. And so a 70,000 or 100,000 word book is not that's not my thing. A pamphlet of 3,500, yay, that's cool. Yeah. That'll work.
Yeah.
That's getting there. Of course, but having somebody use sticky notes and slap them up on walls works too. By the way, I once used sticky notes doing the matrix with, in a prison.
Yeah.
I know some of the people in there were murderers and stuff. And I couldn't use any, I was limited in what I could take in there. Let me put it that way. But I could take sticky notes and some kind of marker pen. So we were doing the matrix with sticky notes. So.
Very applicable. As Phil knows, I visit prisons as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do?
I do.
All right. Well, we share that.
We do.
Yeah. Interesting.
And, had very interesting conversations with some of my friends. Yeah. And I say my friends, because, you know, it's a difficult place to be in
It's
your
a
mind.
very difficult place.
It is. And you have to be able to sort, you have to be able to keep your mind active, first of all, in my opinion, and to be able to sort what's going on, or you will easily lose what they have facing ahead of them.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's true.
And unfortunately, some people make choices where they end up there.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean they're any less of a person. It just means they need to think a little bit about it. But as Phil knows, that's one of the things.
Well, once again, you're well received, or at least I've been well received, and I'm going to assume that Dawn has been well received because it's non-judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going in there, you know, to diss on anybody.
And I think in my communication of it, I feel like I'm so passionate, especially for the students I work for. I feel like I'm an advocate for them, but I'm so passionate about not being judgmental because being judgmental doesn't get them anywhere.
Oh man, I love it. Passionate, non-judgmental.
Yeah. I mean, to me, they're critical because once you're not, first of all, I have a passion that I don't often see, and I wish I saw more of, just for kids who don't have advocates.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, just the kids that don't feel like they're being heard for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so to communicate the passion, along with the idea that
I'm not judging you.
I'm not judging you. I mean, I could go on and on. I won't.
No, you're absolutely right, Donnie. One of the things you've always done is you know how to validate them. You know how to, like, okay, I get where you're at. You know.
Hey, Don, have you ever watched the documentary Buck, B-U-C-K, Buck? He's the horse whisperer. If you remember Robert Redford's film, The Horse Whisperer, the horse expert that was the horse whisperer was a guy named Buck Brannaman. And they did a gorgeously done documentary on him, with him working with horses, which he called Troubled Colts.
Right.
So Troubled Colts, he'll talk about them. And he basically talks about if you make the mistake of judging one of those troubled colts, it's like you can't get them back. You can't do that. You can't judge them. And he'll say it like that. No. Well, that's with your troubled colts. It's like, no, I'm passionate about not judging them.
Well, when I first started at the program where Phil was, we had a lot of kids that were involved in gangs. And I don't say that lightly because people would say, you know, that they were wannabes or not in this area of town. However, they were gang members.
Oh, yeah.
And
not all the same gang, too, folks.
No, I was going to say.
We had 3 or 4 different gang groups in there.
And if you know gangs, they represent by colors.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you get the wrong colors in a class, and the kids are there for emotional behavioral reasons anyway, it could not go really well.
Yeah, right.
So, and sometimes, you know, everyone, unfortunately, gossip goes around, or this is said about this one. But to me, it was really important that there be no colors in school.
Right. And
I don't know
about that. Right.
Sometimes I was blessed by God, but I have snatched quite a few bandanas in my day from some very tall, large gang.
She should walk right up to them, Kevin. The toughest dude in the school. She walk right up and she goes, hand it over. And they go, oh, okay.
So Dawn has street cred.
She had it.
Well,
that's you know that's what it is. It's street cred.
And but the other part of that is that, you know, oftentimes we judge if a kid is selling drugs. And then when you actually get them and you get that trust factor and you talk to them, you find out that they're doing what they need to do sometimes to turn the lights on for their family.
Yeah. Exactly.
So then who are we to walk a mile in their shoes?
Right.
I don't condone what they did, but I always respected the fact that they could be honest with me and that when they came to school, it was to make for a better life for themselves or their family.
Right.
And that's when I really started to become passionate about telling teachers, like it's a non-judgmental zone. I don't know what's going on in someone else's life. I don't walk down their streets. I'm not responsible to their neighborhood. And sometimes the kids who turn the other way and don't want to make those choices have no choice. Their parents have made the choice or their grandparents have made the choice. And when you work with troubled teens, you really have to try to empathize with where they're coming from and be compassionate to what they go home to. With 6.5 hours in a day, that's all we have is 6.5 hours.
That's all you got.
To give them some influence.
And it's not much.
No.
It's not much. Right. And so, man, this is so cool. It was way
But
cool.
on the other hand, they would show up.
Perpetually.
They're showing up.
Yeah.
They're showing up.
And they would keep showing up.
Yes.
And I'll go to the other, and I like your term, the sort of the radical non-judgmental, because they'll pick up in a microsecond if you are judgmental.
Well, I'll tell you what, they understand genuine. They can read it within seconds. They can size you up and down, and they know whether your intention is genuine or not.
Right, and that's what I meant about your street cred. They knew that you were up to good.
Which sometimes I don't know where that came from.
But nevertheless, they knew you were up to the better. You were taken care of.
Yep.
I had a story of a young man who I had suspended on Valentine's Day. And he was one of the students who, as Phil said, liked to visit me often. So I had to suspend him. In fact, I had to walk him out the front door. And as he was walking down the street from the school, probably about 10 minutes later, he came back on camera, and the secretary said, "Should I let him in?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I just suspended him." I said, "I'll go see what he wants." So I went down to the front door, and I opened the front door, and he brought me back a box of chocolates that he had forgotten to give me for Valentine's Day.
That's so cool.
So you know what? They knew enough to respect the position.
Yeah.
You know, it's not personal. I'm suspending you because that's my job. When you break the code of conduct, that's my job. But this isn't personal. You're going to unpack, and we're going to start fresh again.
Yeah.
So
I'm not here to beat you down.
Nope.
No, not at all.
That is so cool. Well, you should take over the entire education system.
No, thank you. Phil looks awful nice retired. I think that's the way I'm going to go.
I know that really, people usually do wear this retired. I am also retired, and I seem to wear it well myself. Yeah. But we're not. We're doing podcasts.
Well, yes, and I'll tell you what I really look forward to. That when that time comes that I'm not in a school every day, that I can somehow share my passion professionally with other teachers or administrators, just to meet the needs of this growing society of teenagers that are disaffected or don't feel like they belong.
Well, if Phil and I can help you in the slightest way,
we will certainly be around.
We will be here. We will. Well, obviously, you will have this podcast to point to.
Yep.
And we're pretty. We help.
Yeah,
we'll help best we can.
Well, I've already been talking with. I'm helping Dawn with her in the distant future exit plan, not the right now exit plan, but in the distant future exit plan.
Yes. I have a lot of experience and not a lot of letters after my name, and sometimes the experience trumps all the letters that come after your name.
Yeah, no.
And I just feel like the more I am witness to what goes on in school buildings, the more I think that we have to change what we're doing. We're teaching non-traditional students in a traditional setting.
Yeah.
And it's just not working. We have to become what big corporate businesses are doing now. We have to think outside the box more than we think in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that requires some money and some creativity and a lot of open-mindedness, which I don't always see in education.
No. Well, I'm not going to pick on just education.
There's lots of ways.
There's a lot of not open-mindedness all around.
In my real well, it's pretty good in education.
Yeah, but it's definitely. I know it's in education for sure. Well, I've known Phil for 11, 12 years now, so I've heard a lot about that, and it's just tough. But you know what? Phil and I talk often. We do it a podcast at a time. Maybe in a webinar, we'll do some training. We just keep plugging away at it. And fortunately, the matrix is something that can easily be shown to other folks. Yep. And if you do show it to other folks, and I'm talking to the people on the podcast now, remember it is fine to think of some new way to do it, whether it be in a sandbox with sticky notes on walls, talk people through it. However, the diagram was done on a whiteboard and on pieces of papers that made it easy initially for me to show it to other people. It's still an easy way to show it to other people, but it is not the only way to use it.
No.
And you can come up with some really creative stuff. And I'd like to that end, okay, people have made matrices or a matrix on the floor and have people walk around the different quadrants and stuff on the floor, basically in sort of a modified dance routine kind of thing. So that's what I'm talking about. Whatever comes to your mind, and if you think, gee, I wonder if it's okay for me to do the matrix this way, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Because
you notice it's working, it's working.
It's working. Right. Find what works for you. Find your way. Find what works for you. And if it's working, it's working.
Yeah.
There's a great Duke Ellington quote. You know who Duke Ellington is, the musician, composer and stuff. He said, if it sounds good, it is good. And that's the way it is. That's the mean as a matrix. If it's working, it's working. It's good, man. Let's go for it. But to cover again, it is non-judgmental. And some people want to be judgmental, and so they shy away from the matrix. I do know that, actually, that they'll spot the non-judgmental nature of it, and they don't really want to use it because they want to be judgmental. So that's sad to say there are people in this world that are like that. So I would dare say probably most of the people who listen to this podcast are not of that ilk. They are the non-judgmental types. And with troubles, whether it be troubled cults or troubled, what they say in Vinny, my cousin Vinny, Utes?
Troubled Ute.
Utes. Ever seen that movie, Dawn?
Yes, I have.
Troubled Utes. But troubled students, troubled young people, whatever. That non-judgmental tact works because they know if you're judging them, and they won't listen to you anyway if you're judging them. You lose all your credibility. So
comes back to being genuine.
Yeah, genuine. Be who you are, which hopefully is a very nice person wanting to help them. So this has been so cool. We'll have to have you on again. And ideas for the future, Dawn. You could get together with Phil, and you guys could video a role play, at least, of you doing that sticky notes on the wall.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
With the noticing on the belly thing. Obviously, you can't do a real situation, but
no.
As long as you introduced everybody as a role play, it would be cool to visualize it and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so people can go back and look at it and see it. And
then you can start your own YouTube channel, Dawn.
In my spare time?
Well, you get one up, you never know where it goes, see?
One's all it takes. I mean, you can go. But in the meantime, I certainly have a YouTube channel. And Phil has a YouTube channel. So we can get that thing up in a couple of places. And that would be a cool thing to do if you ever got a chance to do that. That would be neat to see somebody doing it. We're about to have Bill Carlion, right?
Yeah, Carolyn.
I blow that name every time because it's spelled Carlion. And my head sees the spelling. But anyway, he works with youth as well. And he does the monkey matrix. Have you heard that one, Dawn?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, you gotta listen to it. You gotta listen
I'll send
to
you
it.
a link to it.
I bet you'll incorporate monkeys after you hear
this. Yeah.
Send her the link.
It piqued my interest.
But it does. Yeah. It's monkeys, and he even has a song he plays, and we just put out the song, and it's way cool, way too cool way of physicalizing, engaging. He even has the kids play with the barrel of monkeys.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was way cool. Right. So hey, listen to Bill, another person in education. So there you go. Maybe all of you can band together and change everything.
Change the world.
Why not?
Yep.
You got to do it one little step at a time.
Got to start somewhere.
So thank you so much for being on, Dawn.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Hang on. I'm going to end the podcast. By the way, everybody, Phil and I are always doing online trainings. So if you go to the actmatrixacademy.com, which is probably on a link somewhere around this podcast, but if it's not, just the Act Matrix Academy, look it up, and you can sign up and do a training with us. How's that for a plug, Phil?
Sounds good to me, Kevin.
Okay, now I'm going to turn off the recording.